By the way, real quickly, let you know that we are right, by the way, and I can prove it. When you have Obama, and Obama was a big government, he's a big government president, right? Take more taxes, and then you have Reagan was a president for big economy. Well, I did some research and found out a comparison. I thought you might want to hear this. Between Reagan's presidency and Obama's presidency, it was the only two presidents since World War II where unemployment rate hit 10%. Okay? Obama had $1 trillion stimulus plan that did zero. Okay? But this is what happened. During the Reagan recovery, in 5 years, the real median household income rose 7%. Under Obama, it fell 5%. After 55 months of a recession under Reagan, Reagan created 8 million jobs. Obama lost 4 million jobs in the same time period. After 40 months of the recession, the number of people on food stamps under Reagan fell 13%. Under Obama, increased 71%. This is a culture of dependency and entitlement. And I'll never forget, a poet once told me, entitlement now, slavery later.
That's right.
Is that right? That's what this is really about. Under the Reagan administration, the number of people drawing unemployment dropped by 12%. Under Obama, it rose by 20%. It's the tale of two cities, the tale of two countries, the tale of two philosophies. That's what this is. And we are right. It works. We don't need to walk out this door and apologize for what we believe in, ladies and gentlemen. We need to stand, draw the line, plant our flag like you have, and not budge. Because it's the only thing that will work. The left is experimenting with California. They didn't get it right in Cuba. They can't get it right in Venezuela, and they can't get it right in East Germany, so they're trying to fix it in California. That's what this is about. They think they can live your life better than you can. And it's outrageous, because they're taking the Constitution of the United States and they're destroying it. And they're replacing representative government with bureaucracies and regulations. Ladies and gentlemen, the answer to our future is real simple. Shift power away from Sacramento and Washington back to local government. There's the answer. That is the answer. Milton Friedman said the greatest threat to freedom is a concentration of economic and political power. Do you know why China's on fire economically? Do you know why? Guess who went to China in 1983? Milton Friedman. Did you know that? They said, how come we're broke and run around on bicycles? He says, real simple. The free enterprise will make you wealthy. They said, okay, they did it. What are we doing? We're wondering exactly where communist China was. Our governor just got back from China. He had to go to a communist country to try to get the economic prosperity in California. Think of that. I met with communist leaders in my office, and they said they would never do business in this state because there's too many regulations. That's how bad it's gotten. So the answer in the future and your hope, and if you can't do this for yourself, do it for your grandkids. There's no way on God's green earth that I want my daughter and grandkids being raised in an Obama world. He has literally declared war on freedom.
That's right.
That's what he's done. And this is a statement that's absolutely true. He doesn't even try to deny it. We got to take our country back. I believe the tide and the pendulum is swinging our way, and their economy is falling apart. The debt is $16 trillion, and we're going to prevail. If you will stay consistent and be determined to win this fight, ladies and gentlemen, we will win the fight. And I guarantee you, I will be there every step of the way with you. I'll wrap this up by reading one quote from you from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who had lived the life that they're trying to give us, okay, in Russia. And he talked to the Harvard graduating class in 1979, and he warned those students. And he said, Harvard's motto is Veritas. He goes, many of you have already found out, and others will find out in the course of their lives, that truth eludes us if we do not concentrate with total attention on its pursuit. Even while it eludes us, the illusion still lingers of knowing it. And it leads us astray. He said, truth is seldom pleasant. It's almost always bitter. But he said, there's bitterness in my speech today. But I come as a friend, not an adversary. And he hit something here that was so important. 3 things. Decline of courage, fashionable thinking, and a loss of willpower to see freedom survive in America. He said that was a greater threat than the Soviet Union. You are the hope. You're the ones we're counting on. You get it. Look at the age group around here. Think about it. The founding fathers were your age. They weren't a bunch of hippies. They were your age. It was the first revolution in the history of mankind when the people who had everything were prepared to sacrifice us for a philosophy. Did you know that?
Yes.
They had it all. They had nothing to gain. There was no hope for them to win this fight. But they were prepared to give it all. Patrick Henry said, of all the celestial gifts that my dear Lord and Savior has given me, and I had to choose one, it would be freedom. That's what he said. Isn't that something? The movie Braveheart. William Wallace. What would you do without freedom? That is the battle that we have before us. Self-government, self-responsibility. I want to thank your leadership here for what they're doing to participate and make this happen. And I'm honored to be here with you tonight. And I promise you, I will stay up with you every step of the way, and I will never blink. My father landed at Normandy. He marched across Europe with Patton. Before he died, he said, Dan, the only thing I ask of you is that you fight to give your children the same freedom we fought to give you. God bless you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you were familiar with either CARB or the Department of Industrial Relations before you came here? So, a good number of you. Ben and I, this is a subject very close to our hearts. Ben and I have both been in the construction field for over 30 years apiece. Well, Ben chickened out and became an attorney, but at least he's a construction attorney. We know so many contractors who have pieces of equipment that are worth in excess of $200,000, and the cost to retrofit these, whenever CARB decides these need to be retrofitted, is punitive. It does nothing for the environment. It is just punitive. We live in a government that is working against us.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we decided to take on this issue of CARB, we got an email from another patriot that alleged that our Paradise Vice Mayor, Scott Lauder, has a CARB monitoring system on the building, on his Paradise Cinema 7 building. The Paradise Tea Party has verified that with CARB. That is a fact. We have sent a letter to Dwight Moore, the town attorney for the town of Paradise, and asked him several questions. Although that's a private building, it's an elected official, and that's a government agency. We've asked him this: is this a conflict of interest? What are the financial terms of the agreement? Did he use his office to influence the deal with this government agency? And has he disclosed this relationship with the town of Paradise? We talked to the town council with this. Now, I've known Dwight Moore for a long time. I spent a lot of time in that building as a planning commissioner, a councilman, and a mayor. I think he's a good and honorable man. I met with him face to face yesterday and said, this letter's coming. I didn't want him to be blindsided. I wanted to know it's coming from the Paradise Tea Party. It's got my signature on it. I think he'll do what the law requires him to do as far as disclosure is concerned. Do I personally think that Mr. Lauder has done something illegal or unethical? I'm going to wait for Dwight Moore to tell me that. However, I do know this. We're small government conservatives. He obviously thinks CARB is a beneficial government bureaucracy in the state that does good work. So much so that he has entered into a contract with it. But this is also the same Scott Lauder who was the only no vote several weeks ago on our Second Amendment resolution. And his reason was that city councils don't really have the right or the authority to get involved in these kind of things. Yet he was also the same Scott Lauder who voted yes for a resolution for the Center for Tolerance and Nonviolence, who's a very small, radical, liberal group who, to the best of my understanding, there are only 2 agenda items, that they are pro-homosexual and anti-Christian.
No, don't do that.
And he is also the only council member, now that's not true, he also voted yes on a resolution to support the Kyoto Accord, an international treaty signed by Bill Clinton to decimate the powers of the United States. Now, can we stop Obamacare from here in Paradise? We cannot. What we can do is promote better local government. If you think this is a good idea, I doubt you would be here. We'd like you to know, the problem with the politicians, when they say that they're a declined state or they're a moderate, that tells you one of 2 things. Either they don't know where they stand, or they don't want you to know where they stand. We know where we stand. We want you to let Mr. Lauder know where you stand. Bear in mind these things. You always represent the Tea Party. Be respectful, be factual, but let him know how you think about this. Mr. DeDuca, give us the call to action, please.
Okay. That was great. Thank you very much. Thank you. That is precisely what we want our elected officials to do. Take a stand and tell us to fight. And thank you for joining us. Quick story on labor laws. As an attorney, I represent a lot of contractors. I used to represent a lot of contractors. There aren't many of them left in business in California. And in one case, in a public works project, a non-union contractor, my client, made payments to his subcontractor, who was supposed to make payments to his employees. They were all entitled to receive the prevailing wage, which is the number that Mr. Nielsen was talking about. And that's a value per hour that's established as being the wage to be paid in California. The problem is it's set based on union wages. It's not set on average or median wages in California. That subcontractor failed to pay his employees the prevailing wage, or at least that was the argument. And so in the course or context of representation, we audited our own client's books and found that of the $180,000 that was claimed in unpaid wages, the demonstrable loss was about $42,000. They could prove $42,000 that the subcontractor didn't pay. My client paid the subcontractor, but the subcontractor didn't pay it. The employees filed a claim against the contractor's bond, and after we calculated all of the weight penalties, all of the liquidated damage penalties, all of their attorney's fees claims, my client's potential loss on $42,000 was $1,200,000. My client paid over $300,000 to settle that claim. That is bureaucracy in California. So, with that story, being a lawyer, I have to give you my disclaimer. The statements made and presented in this presentation are the opinion of the speaker. That's me. These statements do not necessarily represent the opinions of the Tea Party, however they should. So tonight, we've been talking about bureaucracy, but it's hard for us to really define what that is. So as part of our informational section of the Tea Party, I do periodic PowerPoint presentations to help us understand what we're talking about. The best way to defeat A socialist is to tell them exactly what the law is. That leads me to another comment. I have determined that in being fully against political correctness, and which I refer to as political censorship, I'm no longer going to refer to liberals and progressives as Democrats. I'm going to refer to them as socialists because that's what they are. So let's make sure that we're calling it exactly what it is. Let's be straight up. So tonight we're going to talk about, and this will be fairly quick. I'm going to move kind of quick through this. What is a bureaucracy? How is a bureaucracy created? How does a bureaucracy affect us? And what can we do about it? Okay, what is a bureaucracy? Writer Robert Morton defined bureaucracy by reference to red tape and inefficiency due to blind conformity with procedures. And as we go through this, you're going to hear these issues sound in everything that Assemblyman Lowe and Mr. Nielsen talked about. Bureaucracies concentrate power at the top, becoming dictatorial, as occurred in the Soviet Union. Now, we didn't coordinate our speeches tonight. Sociologist Lawrence Peter established what's known as the Peter Principle. And Mr. Peter replied that employees in a bureaucracy are promoted to a level of their incompetence. So said differently, in other words, managers continually receive promotions until they attain a position that they are incompetent to handle. And they usually remain in that position until they retire or die. So we may be stuck with them for a very long time. Historian C. Northcote Parkinson established Parkinson's Law, and I'm sure you've all heard this. It states that the work expands to the time allotted, and Parkinson believed that bureaucracies always grow, and opined that it typically is 6% annually. Bureaucracies are perpetuated by managers who wish to appear busy, so they increase their workload by creating paper rules, filing evaluations and forms, and another filing, and who then hire more assistants who in turn require additional managerial supervision and create more forms and paperwork. So it becomes a self-perpetuating circle of government regulation and control. I'm not much of an origami, but when our founding fathers organized these United States, it was their opinion that government would occupy the top of that triangle, where my finger is now today. The federal government is the largest employer in these United States. Okay. Parkinson also observed that bureaucrats' budgets rely on the use it or lose it principle, meaning the current year's expenditures determine the following year's budget. So even if the money is not needed, they find a way to spend it or hide it. And what was it? The parks, California State Parks, had how much money hidden that they didn't disclose? Okay. The need to spend more to get more creates a deep incentive to spend, even waste, as much money as possible to guarantee their ever-increasing budget. They are justifying their existence. Okay. So how is a bureaucracy created? The legislature makes laws and creates departments. This is very simplified. Each department establishes specialized boards, bureaus, and commissions. Adequate regulations, in quotations, are created under the guise they protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people. And then the board appoints executive officers who appoint department heads, who appoint managers and bill their staff, and we pay for everything. The power to regulate creates a bureaucracy. Each time the government appoints a new board or a commission, it creates a new layer of laws and regulations, a new source of expense, and an entire bureaucracy. Another complex of unelected individuals to set regulations and control your conduct. Another complex of unelected individuals to regulate your conduct. And as taxpayers, you and I pay for this unrestricted expansion of government. In creating a bureaucracy, managers and administrators are hired to ensure compliance with laws. speaking plainly, these individuals are enforcers. I think Mr. Nielsen would probably agree with that. And the enforcers are